The Mid-Region Council of Governments presents Crossing the River, 2035 Metropolitan Transportation Plan. The Mid-Region Council of Governments conducts planning in the four counties of Torrance, Valencia, Sandoval, and Bernalillo. In addition to transportation planning, Mr. Cog works in workforce planning, economic development planning, and comprehensive planning in the areas outside the blue line on this map. The metropolitan area, what we call the AMPA, encompasses all of Bernalillo County and all the jurisdictions within it. The southern portion of Sandoval County, including Rio Rancho, the village of Corrales, the town of Bernalillo, also Isleta Pueblo and the village of Los Lunas. The 2035 Metropolitan Transportation Plan is for the area outlined here in orange. Demand to cross the river is expected to increase substantially due to continued population growth. This table shows that although the pace of growth between 2008 and 2035 is highest in Sandoval and Valencia counties, Bernalillo County will add the greatest number of residents. People often ask us about our forecasts. Mr. Cog uses control totals from UNM's Bureau of Business and Economic Research. Their forecasts are shown as dashed lines on this graph, while the solid line in red is the actual number. As you can see, the estimates are generally close, if somewhat conservative. Here we see where Mr. Cog forecasts employment and housing growth. Areas lighter in color are either unsuitable for development or are already built out. The darker the shade of green, the greater the number of new residents. New jobs are shown as red dots. Each dot represents 20 jobs. Note that although there are few new residents east of the Rio Grande and Albuquerque, the area around Journal Center and the Central Business District continue to add employment. Continuing population growth west of the river means even more people will be crossing the river despite the addition of many new jobs. On this map, the darker the shade of orange to red to purple, the more severe the congestion. Note how much more of the roadway system is severely congested, red or purple, in 2025. Despite the increase in new jobs west of the Rio Grande, population growth increases at a greater rate. As you can see here, we forecast that the number of jobs per house will not change significantly over our planning horizon. To put this in perspective, in 2008 there were on average 500,000 river crossings per day. That number is expected to double to 1 million crossings per day by 2035. Planners at the Mid-Region Council of Governments know that crossing the river is a major regional issue. We are asked frequently about the issue, and the elected officials on our policy board have asked us to look into the topic. The board has asked Mr. Cog planners to analyze 5 different strategies. Each strategy includes several different options, depending on the resources available. Because we would like to hear what you think of these strategies, please pay close attention to the following slides. One strategy that must be considered is adding more lanes to existing crossings or additional crossings. We know that we could build a dozen new lanes today and they would all operate at capacity tomorrow. However, we must consider not only the crossings themselves, but the addition of capacity to the approaches and exits from the bridge crossings. As we factor in the cost of these additional network improvements, the cost goes up dramatically into the hundreds of millions of dollars. In addition, we must recognize that the land use policies adopted by our member jurisdictions do not call for any new added bridge capacity. Instead, those policies state as a priority the preservation of the bosque as a regional resource. Another approach is to increase vehicle occupancy or get more people into the vehicles that cross the river. High occupancy vehicle lanes are open to vehicles with 2 or more occupants and are also open to transit. Since only a fraction of the vehicles crossing the river contain carpools, traffic in HOV lanes can move faster than ordinary traffic. High occupancy toll lanes are like HOV lanes with the option provided that the driver can pay a toll to use the higher speed facility. Both types of lanes are often underutilized, leading to a perception that they are Lexus lanes for the rich. One strategy certain to be a part of the solution is how we develop the area's land. By addressing the jobs-housing balance and building communities in such a way that not all trips require a private vehicle, we can reduce demand on bridge crossings. The cost of making land use policy changes is fairly low, but because development of these new communities requires the cooperation of developers and the marketplace, they can take many years to mature. Transit is likely to be at least a part of the package of river crossing strategies that the board adopts. At the high end, light rail could move large numbers of people across the river to job centers east of the river. For a significantly lower cost, bus rapid transit can operate in its own right-of-way to bypass congestion, then mix in with traffic as it gets closer to its destination. On the downside, not all trips will be convenient to make with transit, and lower-cost options are less appealing to commuters and other travelers. This map shows that several of the major transit corridors, shown in pink, being considered for the 2035 MTP include bridge crossings. The area in blue, roughly from Unser and Southern in Rio Rancho to I-25 along Paseo del Norte and Alameda, is being studied as a potential bus rapid transit corridor. Here are a couple of illustrations of how bus rapid transit might operate in its own guideway. As you can see, the right-of-way needed is less than that needed for a travel lane for cars, since outriggers on the side of the bus can keep it on track. These buses can move in traffic to pick up and deliver passengers and operate in their own guideway to bypass congested areas. Here's an example of how bus rapid transit could work in traffic. The bus, in green, pulls up to the intersection in its own lane. It gets a bus-only green light, giving it a head start on the cars. Once the bus has moved into a travel lane, the signal turns green for the other vehicles at the intersection. Finally, the board has asked Mr. Cog planners to see how we might squeeze more efficiency out of the roadways we already have. This suite of options includes coordinating traffic signals to allow greater numbers of vehicles to move through intersections, giving drivers information about delays and crashes, and clearing those crashes more quickly. At the high end of the scale, reversible lanes would be considered. Reversible lanes change direction from the AM to the PM commute, allowing more vehicles to get across in the higher volume direction. Many intelligent transportation systems have been employed in the area, and they provide a great value for their relatively low cost. However, ITS does not address the fundamental issues of capacity on the river crossings and can provide only a marginal improvement. You've heard about the 5 strategies we're looking at to address the issue of crossing the river. Now we come to the hard part. How much of our region's resources to allocate to each strategy? This is in simple terms similar to what our board will be deciding. How much to spend on transit, on changing land use, on adding new lanes or bridges, or increasing operational efficiency? Perhaps you feel that HOV or toll lanes are a good idea or a bad one. You can divide the pot between the strategies you think are the best uses of public money, or put all the regional resources into just one strategy. Thinking in percentage terms, any number between 0 and 100 for each strategy is okay, as long as the total percentage expended comes out to 100. Are you ready to tell us what you think? If so, just click on the blue ballot and submit your response. We'll let the elected officials who make these decisions know what you think.